Let yourself settle in comfortably as we journey to the heart of Central Europe, to a city divided by a river and united by history. Close your eyes and breathe deeply as we explore Budapest, the pearl of the Danube, a city where thermal waters bubble beneath ancient streets and where every bridge tells a story. The city we know as Budapest is actually quite young in its current form, though its roots stretch back millennia. What we call Budapest today was officially unified on November 17, 1873, when three separate cities, Buda, and Pest, merged into a single metropolis. Before this union, these were distinct settlements on opposite sides of the Danube River, each with its own character and history. Buda and Buda occupied the hilly western bank, their elevated positions offering natural fortification, while Pest spread across the flat eastern plains, its open landscape inviting commerce and expansion. This merger transformed a collection of towns into what would become one of Europe's great capitals. The Danube River, which flows through the heart of the city, is the second longest river in Europe, stretching 1,785 miles from Germany's Black Forest to the Black Sea. In Budapest, the river is at its most magnificent, flowing majestically through the city center and dividing it into its two historic halves. The Danube here is remarkably wide, in some places spanning over 1,000 feet across, creating a natural boundary that has shaped the city's development for centuries. The river's presence defines Budapest in ways both practical and poetic. It provided transportation and trade routes, offered natural defense, and gave the city its distinctive split personality, with the character of Buda so different from that of Pest. Breathe slowly now as we contemplate the bridges that stitch these two halves together. The most iconic is undoubtedly the Second Chain Bridge, the first permanent bridge to connect Buda and Pest. Completed in 1849, this suspension bridge was a marvel of 19th century engineering and a symbol of progress and unity. The bridge spans 1,230 feet across the Danube and is flanked by two massive stone lions at each end, added in 1852. Legend says that the sculptor forgot to give the lions tongues, and when this was pointed out, he was so distraught that he jumped into the Danube, though this is merely a romantic myth, as the lions do indeed have tongues, visible if you look closely. The chain bridge transformed Budapest, making it possible for the two cities to function as one, enabling daily commerce and connection that was previously dependent on ferries or pontoon bridges that had to be removed each winter when the Danube froze. The city's history reaches back far before this modern union. The area has been continuously inhabited for thousands of years, with the Romans establishing a settlement called Aquincum on the site of present-day Buda around 89 AD. Aquincum served as the capital of the Roman province of Pannonia Inferior and grew into a substantial city with an estimated population of 30,000 to 40,000 people at its peak. The Romans were drawn here by the same feature that would attract countless others over the centuries: the natural thermal springs that bubble up from deep beneath the city. They built elaborate bath complexes, aqueducts, and temples, remnants of which can still be seen today in the Aquincum Archaeological Park, where the foundations of Roman houses, streets, and public buildings lie preserved beneath the modern city. Let your mind drift now to these thermal waters, one of Budapest's most distinctive and beloved features. The city sits atop a geological wonder, a network of thermal springs that pump millions of gallons of naturally heated mineral water to the surface every day. Budapest has over 120 hot springs and thermal wells, more than any other capital city in the world, with water temperatures ranging from lukewarm to over 170 degrees Fahrenheit. These springs produce approximately 70 million liters of thermal water daily, rich in minerals like calcium, magnesium, and sulfate. The waters have been used for healing and relaxation for over 2,000 years, from Roman times through the Ottoman period and into the present day. This abundance of thermal water has earned Budapest the title of the City of Spas, and bathing culture remains central to the city's identity. The Ottoman Turks, who occupied Buda from 1541 to 1686, left an indelible mark on the city's bathing culture. During their 145-year rule, they constructed several magnificent Turkish baths that still function today, including the Rudas Baths, built in 1550, and the Karali Baths, constructed in 1565. These baths were designed in the classical Ottoman style, with octagonal pools beneath domed ceilings punctured by colored glass skylights that cast ethereal beams of colored light into the steam-filled chambers. The Turks understood the therapeutic value of thermal bathing and elevated it to an art form, combining physical wellness with architectural beauty and social ritual. Walking into these centuries-old baths today, with their original Ottoman stonework and atmospheric lighting, is like stepping back in time. Now, as you rest, imagine the gentle warmth of thermal water, the soft echo of voices in ancient stone chambers, and the peaceful rhythm of a city built on springs that have flowed for thousands of years. The largest and most famous of Budapest's bath complexes is the Székely Thermal Bath, opened in 1913 in the city park. This neo-Baroque palace of bathing is one of the largest spa complexes in Europe, featuring 18 pools, 3 outdoor and 15 indoor, with water temperatures ranging from cool plunge pools to hot thermal baths reaching 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The outdoor pools are particularly magical in winter, when steam rises from the hot water into the cold air, and locals play chess on floating boards while immersed up to their shoulders in the healing waters. Székely's water comes from the second deepest thermal well in Budapest, reaching down 4,055 feet below the surface, where the ancient water is heated by the Earth's geothermal energy before rising to fill these. The architectural grandeur of Budapest reflects its history as part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, when it served as one of the 2 capital cities of this vast realm. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, during what many consider Budapest's golden age, the city underwent massive expansion and beautification. Grand boulevards were laid out, magnificent public buildings were erected, and Budapest styled itself as a rival to Vienna in elegance and culture. The Hungarian Parliament building, completed in 1904, stands as the ultimate expression of this ambition, a Gothic revival masterpiece that stretches 879 feet along the Danube's eastern bank, with its central dome rising 315 feet high and its facade decorated with 88 statues of Hungarian rulers. The Parliament is the 3rd largest legislative building in the world and remains one of Europe's most photographed structures. Its interior is equally spectacular, containing 691 rooms, nearly 12 miles of corridors, and using 88 pounds of gold in its decoration. As you breathe deeply and let yourself relax, picture this city of layered history: Roman ruins beneath medieval streets, Turkish baths beside Baroque palaces, thermal springs flowing beneath it all, and the Danube binding everything together, flowing endlessly toward the sea. High above the Danube on the Buda side rises Castle Hill, a limestone plateau that has been the heart of power and prestige in Budapest for over 700 years. This elevated district, roughly 1 mile long and 1,600 feet wide, sits about 560 feet above sea level, offering commanding views over the city and river below. The hill's strategic importance was immediately obvious to medieval settlers who built their fortress here in the 13th century. Today, Castle Hill is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a living museum of cobblestone streets and historic architecture, where every building whispers stories of kingdoms, sieges, and centuries of change. Let your breathing slow as we explore the centerpiece of Castle Hill, Buda Castle, also known as the Royal Palace. The castle story begins in 1265, when King Bela IV of Hungary ordered its construction following the devastating Mongol invasion of 1241 to 1242, which laid waste to much of the country. The king sought a defensible position, and Castle Hill provided exactly that. Over the centuries, the castle was repeatedly destroyed and rebuilt by Mongol invasions, Ottoman sieges, Habsburg renovations, and finally by the devastation of World War II, when the building was almost completely gutted during the Siege of Budapest in 1945. Each reconstruction added new layers, new styles, and new purposes. Today's Buda Castle is primarily a reconstruction from the 1950s to 1960s, built in a neo-Baroque style, and it houses the Hungarian National Gallery, the Budapest History Museum, and the National Székely Library. Beneath Castle Hill lies a hidden world that few visitors see, a labyrinth of natural caves and man-made tunnels stretching for over 6 miles beneath the streets. These caves were formed by thermal waters, carving passages through the soft limestone over millions of years. Throughout history, they've served many purposes: medieval wine cellars, military bunkers, air raid shelters during World War II, and even a secret hospital and nuclear bunker during the Cold War. Some sections are open to tourists today, allowing visitors to wander through cool, damp passages where stalactites hang from cave ceilings and historic graffiti marks the walls. The labyrinth maintains a constant temperature of about 61 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, offering cool refuge in summer and relative warmth in winter. Now, let your mind drift across the river to Pest, where a very different architectural wonder rises from the earth. St. Stephen's Basilica, named after Hungary's first king, who Christianized the nation around the year 1000, is the largest church in Budapest and co-holder, with the Parliament building, of the title of tallest building in the city. Both structures reach exactly 315 feet in height, a deliberate choice symbolizing the equal importance of church and state in Hungarian society. The basilica took 54 years to build, from 1851 to 1905, its construction plagued by setbacks, including the collapse of the dome in 1868, which required a complete redesign. The interior can hold 8,500 people and features stunning mosaics, marble columns, and a treasury that contains the Holy Right Hand, the mummified right hand of St. Stephen himself, Hungary's most sacred relic, preserved in a jeweled reliquary and displayed in a small chapel within the basilica. Breathe deeply and picture the city's metro system, a marvel of early engineering that connects the widespread districts of Budapest. The Budapest Metro Line 1, which runs beneath Andrássy Avenue from the city center to City Park, opened in 1896 and holds the distinction of being the first electrified underground railway system in continental Europe and the second oldest metro system in the entire world after London's Underground. It was built to commemorate the 1000th anniversary of the Hungarian conquest of the Carpathian Basin, and its original stations retained their historic charm, with ornate tile work, vintage lighting fixtures, and a distinctly 19th century atmosphere. The line's shallow tunnels run just beneath street level, and its small, vintage yellow trains, though modernized over the years, still evoke the romance of Victorian-era transportation. Let yourself relax as we explore Andersea Avenue, the grand boulevard above that metro line. Stretching 1.5 miles from Erzsébet Square to Hero Square, Andersea Avenue is Budapest's most prestigious address, lined with neo-Renaissance mansions, elegant townhouses, luxury boutiques, and cafes. Completed in 1884, the avenue was designed as Budapest's answer to the Champs-Élysées, a symbol of the city's cosmopolitan aspirations and growing wealth. The avenue is perfectly straight, allowing an uninterrupted vista from one end to the other, and it culminates at Hero Square, one of the city's most important public spaces. The boulevard is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for its architectural unity and historical significance, and it remains one of the most beautiful streets in all of Europe, particularly in autumn when the plane trees lining the avenue turn golden. Hero Square, which anchors the end of Andersea Avenue, was also created for the 1896 millennial celebrations and serves as a monument to Hungarian history and national identity. At its center stands the Millennium Monument, a 118-foot column topped by the Archangel Gabriel, who according to legend appeared to Hungary's first king in a dream. At the base of the column stand equestrian statues of the 7 Magyar chieftains who led the Hungarian tribes into the Carpathian Basin in 896 AD, establishing the Hungarian nation. Flanking the square are 2 curved colonnades featuring statues of Hungary's most important historical figures, kings, military leaders, and statesmen spanning 1,000 years of history. The square has witnessed countless gatherings throughout its history, from celebratory festivals to solemn commemorations, political rallies to peaceful protests, serving as the stage upon which Hungarian history has played out for over a century. Behind Hero Square lies City Park, Budapest's green heart, a 302-acre oasis of gardens, lakes, museums, and recreational spaces. The park has been a public space since the early 19th century, but it was dramatically expanded and beautified for the 1896 celebrations. Within the park sits Buda Castle, a fantastical structure that appears to belong to a fairy tale rather than a public park. Built initially as a temporary pavilion for the Millennial Exhibition, the castle proved so popular that it was rebuilt in permanent materials. The remarkable thing about Buda is that it's actually a composite of 21 different buildings, each section representing a different architectural style, from Hungarian history, Romanesque, Gothic, Renaissance, and Baroque, all seamlessly integrated into a single structure. Walking around the castle feels like taking a journey through centuries of architectural evolution, from medieval towers to Renaissance courtyards, all reflected in the peaceful waters of the park's lake. As you sink deeper into rest, imagine strolling through City Park on a quiet evening, the castle illuminated against the darkening sky, the sound of water lapping at the shore, and the distant music from the nearby outdoor thermal baths drifting on the breeze, the whole city settling into its peaceful nighttime rhythm. Budapest's cafe culture is legendary, a tradition that has endured for over 150 years and continues to define the city's social life. The golden age of Budapest's cafes flourished in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when the city's literary, artistic, and intellectual elite gathered in ornate coffee houses to debate, create, and socialize for hours over a single cup of coffee. These weren't merely places to drink coffee. They were institutions, second homes where writers penned novels, poets composed verses, and revolutionaries plotted change. The most famous of these historic cafes is the New York Cafe, opened in 1894 as part of the New York Palace building. With its gilded columns, frescoed ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and marble floors, it was designed to be the most beautiful cafe in the world, and many would argue it still holds that title today. Legend says that on opening night, wealthy patrons threw the cafe's keys into the Danube, so it would never have to close. Let your thoughts drift now to the matter of Budapest bridges, for each one tells its own story. The city has 9 bridges crossing the Danube within its limits, each with distinct character and history. After the Chain Bridge came the Margaret Bridge, completed in 1876, which uniquely creates a 165-degree angle in its middle where it meets Margaret Island, rather than running straight across. The Elizabeth Bridge, named for the beloved Empress Elizabeth of Austria, known as Sisi, was completed in 1903 and was once the longest single-span bridge in the world. It was completely destroyed in World War II and rebuilt in a modernist style, reopening in 1964. The Liberty Bridge, with its distinctive Art Nouveau design and mythical turo birds perched atop its pillars, was originally named after Emperor Franz Joseph and opened in 1896. Each bridge offers a different perspective on the city, and locals often have strong preferences about which one captures Budapest's essence most perfectly. Breathe slowly and picture Margaret Island, that peaceful green refuge sitting in the middle of the Danube between Buda and Pest. This 1.6-mile-long island has been a retreat from urban life for centuries, though its uses have changed dramatically over time. In medieval times, it was primarily a religious sanctuary, home to monasteries and convents, including one where Princess Margaret, daughter of King Bela IV, lived as a nun in the 13th century. She's the island's namesake. Today, Margaret Island is a car-free zone, a paradise for joggers, cyclists, and anyone seeking tranquility amidst nature. The island contains a Japanese garden, a musical fountain that performs choreographed water shows to classical music, the ruins of medieval religious buildings, a small zoo, thermal baths, and countless gardens where locals come to escape the summer heat. In spring, the island explodes with the fragrance of blooming flowers, and in autumn, its tree-lined paths turn golden and red. Now let yourself relax as we explore one of Budapest's most distinctive symbols, the yellow trams that rumble through the city streets. Budapest has one of the largest tram networks in the world, with over 100 miles of track and more than 40 different lines connecting every corner of the city. The iconic tram number 2, which runs along the Pest side of the Danube embankment, is often cited as one of the most scenic tram rides in the world, offering uninterrupted views of Castle Hill, Buda Castle, the Chain Bridge, and the Parliament Building. The trams themselves, painted in the city's signature yellow, have become as much a symbol of Budapest as the bridges or thermal baths. Some of the older tram cars, called UV or UV2 models, have been running since the 1960s and 1970s, their vintage interiors and characteristic sounds evoking nostalgia for longtime residents. The tram network runs day and night, with certain lines operating 24 hours, ensuring the city never completely sleeps. Let your mind drift to the Danube Promenade, that elegant riverside walkway on the Pest side that stretches from the Chain Bridge to the Elizabeth Bridge. This promenade, also known as the Danube Corso, has been a fashionable place to stroll since the 19th century, when Budapest's upper classes would promenade here in their finest clothes, seeing and being seen. Today, it remains one of the city's most beautiful walks, lined with elegant buildings, cafes with outdoor terraces, and offering unobstructed views across the river to Castle Hill. Along this promenade stands one of Budapest's most moving memorials, the Shoes on the Danube bank. Created in 2005 by sculptor Eula Power and director Kintogi, the memorial consists of 60 pairs of iron shoes cast in 1940 style, arranged along the embankment. These shoes commemorate the Jewish victims who were shot into the Danube by fascist Arrow-Cross militiamen during the final months of World War II in 1944 to 1945. Victims were ordered to remove their shoes before being shot at the river's edge. The memorial is simple, powerful, and deeply affecting, and it has become a place of pilgrimage and remembrance, often adorned with candles and flowers left by visitors. Breathe deeply now as we consider Budapest's Jewish heritage, for this city was once home to one of the largest and most vibrant Jewish communities in Europe. Before World War II, approximately 200,000 Jews lived in Budapest, making up about 20% of the city's population. The Jewish quarter, located in the 7th district of Pest, was the heart of this community, and it remains so today, though the community is much smaller. At the quarter center stands the Doheny Street Synagogue, also known as the Great Synagogue, completed in 1859. This magnificent structure is the largest synagogue in Europe and the second largest in the world, with seating capacity for 3,000 worshippers. Designed in a Moorish revival style with Byzantine elements, its twin towers rise 141 feet high, and its interior features gilded columns, ornate wooden pews, and a spectacular organ with 5,000 pipes. The synagogue complex also contains the Jewish Museum, a memorial garden, and the Raoul Wallenberg Holocaust Memorial Park, where weeping willow sculpture made of metal bears the names of Hungarian Holocaust victims on its leaves. The tragic history of Budapest Jews during World War II is marked by both horror and heroism. By 1944, when Nazi Germany occupied Hungary, the city's Jewish population faced deportation and death. However, several individuals mounted extraordinary rescue efforts. Raoul Wallenberg, a Swedish diplomat, issued protective passports and sheltered thousands in buildings designated as Swedish territory, saving an estimated 100,000 lives before mysteriously disappearing into Soviet custody in 1945. Giorgio Palasca, an Italian businessman, posed as a Spanish diplomat and used forged documents to protect thousands more. Karl Lutz, the Swiss vice consul, issued protective letters and created safe houses. Despite these heroic efforts, approximately 565,000 Hungarian Jews perished in the Holocaust, including many from Budapest. The city's Jewish community today numbers around 80,000 to 100,000, making it still one of the largest in Europe, and Jewish cultural life has experienced a renaissance in recent decades, with restored synagogues, kosher restaurants, cultural festivals, and renewed pride in this heritage. The ruined bars of Budapest, concentrated in the Jewish quarter, represent one of the city's most distinctive contributions to contemporary European nightlife culture. These unique venues emerged in the early 2000s when entrepreneurs began converting abandoned buildings, empty lots, and dilapidated apartments into bars and cultural spaces, deliberately embracing and even amplifying the decay and shabbiness of these spaces. Mismatched furniture salvaged from flea markets, graffiti-covered walls, wild garden courtyards, and eclectic decorations created an aesthetic that was simultaneously nostalgic, creative, and subversive. The most famous, Simple Kurt, opened in 2002 in a former apartment building and has since become a pilgrimage site for travelers seeking Budapest's bohemian spirit. What began as a counterculture movement has now become mainstream, with ruined bars attracting visitors from around the world, though they retain their distinctive atmosphere. Part art installation, part bar, part cultural statement about beauty found in imperfection and renewal growing from ruins. As you rest peacefully, imagine the layers of this city. Ancient and modern, tragic and joyful, elegant and edgy, all coexisting in the same streets, the same buildings, the same flowing river that has witnessed everything and continues its eternal journey to the sea. Let your breathing slow as we turn to one of Budapest's most beloved landmarks, perched high on Gellert Hill on the Buda side of the river. The Cittadella, a fortress built by the Habsburg Austrians in 1851, sits at the summit of this 771-foot hill, offering the most panoramic views of the entire city spread out below. The fortress was constructed following the failed Hungarian Revolution of 1848-49, designed not to protect Budapest from external enemies, but rather to intimidate the city's residents and suppress any future uprisings. The massive walls and strategic position allowed Austrian cannons to target any part of the city if rebellion arose again. Atop the Cittadella stands the Liberty Statue, a 130-foot monument featuring a female figure holding a palm leaf aloft, erected in 1947 to commemorate the Soviet liberation of Budapest from Nazi forces, though its meaning and interpretation have evolved considerably since the end of communist rule. The climb to the top is steep, but the reward is extraordinary. A 360-degree vista encompassing the entire city, the Danube winding through it like a silver ribbon, and on clear days, views extending far across the Hungarian plains. At the base of Gellert Hill sits another of Budapest's treasured spa complexes, the Gellert Thermal Bath, which many consider the most beautiful in the entire city. Opened in 1918 as part of the luxurious Hotel Gellert, the baths were designed in the Art Nouveau style, with stunning details that make bathing here feel like entering a work of art. The main swimming pool features a wave machine installed in 1927, one of the first in the world, which still creates artificial waves for delighted bathers. The thermal pools are adorned with colorful Zalnay ceramic tiles, marble columns, mosaic floors, and sculptural details depicting nymphs and mythological scenes. Stained glass windows cast colored light across the steaming water, and the atmosphere is one of timeless elegance. The baths draw their water from the same ancient thermal springs that the Turks used centuries before, maintaining temperatures between 79 and 104 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on the pool. Bathing at Gellert is an experience that engages all the senses, from the warmth of the mineral-rich water to the visual splendor of the architecture surrounding you. Now breathe deeply and picture the imposing structure of Fisherman's Bastion, one of Budapest's most photographed landmarks. Despite its name and fortress-like appearance, Fisherman's Bastion was never a fortification at all, but rather a decorative terrace built between 1895 and 1902 as part of the millennial celebrations. Designed by architect Frigyes Schulek in a neo-Gothic and neo-Romanesque style, the bastion features 7 towers representing the 7 Magyar tribes that founded Hungary. The structure sits on Castle Hill near Matthias Church, and its white stone terraces, turrets, and colonnades create a fairy tale atmosphere, particularly magical at night when illuminated. The name comes from the Guild of Fishermen, who were responsible for defending this stretch of the city walls during the Middle Ages, though the current structure bears no resemblance to medieval fortifications. The terraces offer some of the finest views of the Parliament building across the river, and the bastion has become one of the most romantic spots in Budapest, popular for marriage proposals and wedding photographs. Let yourself relax as we explore Matthias Church, which stands adjacent to Fisherman's Bastion and shares its prominent position on Castle Hill. Officially named the Church of Our Lady, it's commonly called Matthias Church after King Matthias Corvinus, who ordered its reconstruction in the late 15th century. The church's history stretches back much further, with the first structure on this site built in the 11th century. What makes Matthias Church truly distinctive is its colorful Zalnay tile roof, featuring intricate geometric patterns in gold, red, green, and blue that shimmer in the sunlight. The diamond pattern tiles cover the entire roof, creating a mosaic effect visible from across the city. Inside, the church is equally spectacular, with neo-Gothic frescoes covering nearly every surface, painted by the famous Hungarian artist Károly Lotz in the late 19th century. The church has witnessed numerous coronations, royal weddings, and historic events over its nearly 1,000-year existence, including the coronation of the last Habsburg Emperor, Karl IV, as King of Hungary in 1916. Breathe slowly now as we contemplate Budapest's relationship with music, for this has always been a city where music flows through daily life. The city gave the world Franz Liszt, one of the greatest composers and pianists of the 19th century, who was born in Hungary in 1811 and maintained deep connections to Budapest throughout his life. The Franz Liszt Academy of Music, established in 1875, remains one of the world's premier music conservatories, housed in a stunning Art Nouveau building completed in 1907. The Academy's Grand Concert Hall, with its golden interior and perfect acoustics, hosts performances almost nightly. Beyond classical music, Budapest has a thriving musical scene spanning every genre. The Hungarian State Opera House, completed in 1884 on Andrésy Avenue, is considered one of the finest opera houses in Europe, both acoustically and architecturally. Its neo-Renaissance interior features frescoes, sculptures, and gilded details, with a magnificent chandelier weighing over 3 tons dominating the auditorium. Composer Gustav Mahler served as director here from 1888 to 1891, and the Opera House continues to present world-class performances at ticket prices far more affordable than comparable venues in Western Europe. Let your mind drift to the Great Market Hall, Budapest's largest and most famous indoor market, a temple of Hungarian gastronomy and crafts. Located at the Pest end of Liberty Bridge, this massive structure was completed in 1897 and remains largely unchanged, its iron framework and colorful Zalnay roof tiles perfectly preserved. The building spans over 108,000 square feet across 3 floors, with the ground floor dedicated to fresh produce, meats, fish, and traditional Hungarian products like paprika, foie gras, salami, and tokaji wine. The upper gallery houses craft stalls selling embroidered tablecloths, folk art, and souvenirs, while the basement once contained fish tanks where customers could select live fish. The market is still a working market where locals shop for daily groceries, though it also attracts countless tourists drawn by the vibrant atmosphere. The riot of colors from piled vegetables and hanging paprika strings, and the chance to taste authentic Hungarian street food like langos, deep-fried dough topped with sour cream and cheese. Hungarian cuisine itself deserves contemplation, for it reflects the country's complex history and geographical position at the crossroads of Europe. The most famous Hungarian dish is undoubtedly goulash, or gulyás, a hearty soup stew made with beef, vegetables, and plenty of paprika, the spice that defines Hungarian cooking. Paprika was introduced to Hungary by the Turks and quickly became integral to the national cuisine, grown domestically and ground into powder ranging from sweet to intensely hot. Other classic dishes include chicken paprikash, fisherman's soup made with carp and paprika, stuffed cabbage rolls, and various stews. Hungarian pastries and desserts are equally renowned. Chimney cake, a sweet spiral pastry cooked over an open flame. Dobostort, a multi-layered sponge cake with chocolate buttercream and caramel topping. And strudel, which Hungarians claim as their own despite its disputed origins. The food is hearty, warming, and deeply satisfying, perfect for the cold Central European winters and reflective of a culture that values hospitality, abundance, and the pleasure of gathering around a table with family and friends. The question of Budapest's name itself carries meaning worth pondering as you drift towards sleep. Buda may derive from the Slavic word voda, meaning water, or from Buda, the brother of Attila the Hun, who according to legend founded a city here, though this etymology is disputed. Pest likely comes from a Slavic word meaning cave or oven, possibly referring to the limestone caves honeycombing the area. When the three cities merged in 1873, the question arose of what to call the unified metropolis. Various combinations were proposed, but Budapest won out, placing Buda first perhaps out of respect for its historical prominence and royal associations, even though Pest was larger and more populous. Today, locals still speak of going to Buda or Pest as if they were separate destinations, maintaining the dual identity even within the unified city, acknowledging that the Danube divides more than just geography. It separates two different atmospheres, two different paces of life, two complementary halves of a greater whole. As you sink into deeper rest, picture the city settling into night, lights reflecting on the Danube's dark waters, the yellow glow of trams sliding along their tracks, thermal steam rising into the cool air, the sound of distant music from an open window, a city breathing, resting, dreaming. Let your breathing deepen as we explore one of Budapest's most poignant reminders of its 20th century history, the House of Terror Museum, located in a building at 60 Andecy Avenue that served as headquarters for both the Nazi-Arrow Cross Party and later the Communist Secret Police. The building's basement contained torture chambers and prison cells where countless victims of both totalitarian regimes suffered and died. Opened as a museum in 2002, it documents the horrors of fascist and communist rule in Hungary, creating a powerful memorial to those who endured oppression. The building's exterior features a striking black frame around the roof that casts the word terror in shadow onto the facade when the sun is at the right angle. The museum doesn't shy away from difficult truths, presenting a comprehensive examination of the mechanisms of oppression, the experiences of victims, and the complexities of survival and resistance under totalitarian rule. Now, let your thoughts drift to a lighter subject, Budapest's remarkable collection of Art Nouveau architecture, which gives the city much of its distinctive character. The Art Nouveau movement, called Secessio in Hungarian, flourished in Budapest from roughly 1890 to 1914, leaving the city with hundreds of buildings decorated with flowing organic forms, floral motifs, and innovative use of materials. The Gresham Palace, completed in 1906 and now a Four Seasons hotel, stands as perhaps the finest example, its facade adorned with Zolnay ceramic tiles, peacock motifs, and wrought iron gates featuring intricate metalwork. The building had fallen into severe disrepair during the communist era, but was meticulously restored in the early 2000s, returning it to its original glory. Walking through Budapest streets, particularly in districts V, 6, and 7, reveals countless Art Nouveau treasures. Apartment buildings with decorative facades, sculptural details, stained glass windows, and ornamental ironwork that transform ordinary residential buildings into works of art. Breathe slowly now as we consider Budapest's literary heritage and the role of cafes as creative incubators. The city produced numerous writers who shaped Hungarian and world literature, and many did their finest work in the city's cafes. The poet Attila József, considered one of Hungary's greatest modern poets, was a regular at various Budapest cafes in the 1920s and 1930s. The novelist Sándor Márai, whose work gained international recognition decades after his death, wrote about Budapest's cafe society with deep nostalgia and insight. During the communist era, when many historic cafes were closed or transformed, writers and intellectuals continued to gather in whatever spaces remained, maintaining the tradition of literary culture centered around coffee and conversation. Today, the tradition has been revived, with both historic cafes carefully restored and new establishments opening that honor this cultural legacy, providing spaces where Budapest's contemporary writers, artists, and thinkers continue the centuries-old practice of creating and debating over cups of strong Hungarian coffee. Let yourself relax as we explore the Danube itself and its role in shaping the city's identity and daily life. The river is not just a dividing line, but a living presence, constantly affecting Budapest's character and history. In winter, chunks of ice flow downstream, sometimes forming temporary ice dams that raise water levels. In spring, melting snow from the Alps can cause the river to swell dramatically, occasionally leading to flooding that reminds residents of nature's power. The worst flood in Budapest's recorded history occurred in 1838, when the Danube rose so high that it inundated most of Pest, destroying thousands of buildings and claiming hundreds of lives. This catastrophe led to the construction of the extensive embankments that now line both sides of the river, raising the riverbanks and creating the elegant promenades we see today. The embankments transformed the relationship between city and river, making the Danube both safer and more accessible, and they rank among the most successful examples of 19th century urban planning and flood control. Now breathe deeply and picture the city's relationship with wine, for Hungary has a viticultural tradition stretching back over 1,000 years. While Budapest itself doesn't have vineyards within the city limits, it has always been a center for wine trade and culture. The most famous Hungarian wine region, Tokaj, produces Tokaj Asszú, a sweet dessert wine made from botrytized grapes that was once called the wine of kings and the king of wines. This golden nectar was prized by European royalty for centuries, and Hungary's winemaking tradition represents an unbroken chain of knowledge passed down through generations. Within Budapest, wine culture thrives in traditional wine cellars, modern wine bars, and at festivals celebrating Hungarian vintages. The city also hosts numerous wine shops where experts can guide visitors through Hungary's diverse wine regions, from the robust reds of Villany to the volcanic whites of Somló, each expressing the unique terroir of its origin. Let your mind drift to Budapest's remarkable public transportation system, which extends beyond the famous metro and trams to include an intricate network that makes the city remarkably accessible. The system includes 4 metro lines totaling about 25 miles of track, over 200 bus routes, more than 30 tram lines, a suburban railway network, and even a cogwheel railway that climbs up into the Buda Hills. The cogwheel railway, opened in 1874, is one of the oldest of its kind still operating in the world, climbing a steep incline to reach residential areas high in the hills. Perhaps most charming is the Buda Ciclo, the Castle Hill funicular, a tiny cable railway built in 1870 that climbs from the chain bridge to Buda Castle, covering only 318 feet, but ascending 167 feet in elevation. Destroyed in World War II, it was rebuilt and reopened in 1986, and it remains both a practical way to reach Castle Hill and a nostalgic attraction that evokes Victorian-era engineering. All of these systems work together, integrated through a unified ticketing system, making it possible to navigate the entire city efficiently without a car. Breathe slowly now as we contemplate the Hungarian language itself, one of Europe's most distinctive and challenging tongues. Hungarian, or Magyar as speakers call it, belongs to the Finno-Ugric language family, making it completely unrelated to the Indo-European languages that surround it: German, Slavic languages, and Romanian. Its closest relatives are Finnish and Estonian. Though even these connections are distant and mutual intelligibility is non-existent, Hungarian grammar features extensive use of suffixes. A single word can carry meanings that would require an entire phrase in English. The language has 14 vowel sounds, including distinctive short and long versions that can completely change a word's meaning. For non-native speakers, Hungarian presents significant challenges, from its unfamiliar vocabulary to its complex grammar to its pronunciation. Yet for those who speak it, Hungarian offers remarkable precision and expressiveness, with words that capture specific concepts and emotions that other languages require multiple words to express. The language is fundamental to Hungarian identity, a living link to the Magyar tribes who arrived in the Carpathian Basin over a millennium ago, maintaining linguistic continuity even as empires rose and fell around them. The question of Budapest's future mingles with reflections on its past as you drift towards sleep. The city has survived Mongol invasions, Ottoman occupation, Habsburg rule, Nazi occupation, Soviet domination, and the failed revolution of 1956. Each era left its mark, adding layers to the urban palimpsest. Today's Budapest is simultaneously grappling with preservation and modernization, honoring its architectural heritage while adapting to 21st century needs. New buildings rise beside historic ones, sometimes harmoniously, sometimes creating tension between old and new. The city's population, which peaked at over 2 million in the 1980s, has declined somewhat, but remains substantial at around 1.75 million in the city proper, with over 3 million in the metropolitan area. Young people debate whether to stay or seek opportunities elsewhere, while others move to Budapest from rural Hungary and abroad, drawn by the capital's opportunities and cultural vitality. The Danube continues flowing, indifferent to these human concerns, as it has for millions of years, and as it will for millions more, carrying the city's reflection on its surface, linking past to future, Buda to Pest, mountain to sea. As you rest in perfect tranquility, imagine Budapest in its entirety. Thermal waters rising from ancient depths, bridges arcing across the flowing river, lights twinkling from Castle Hill, the sound of trams on their tracks, music drifting from open windows, the smell of coffee and pastries, the weight of history in every stone, and the promise of tomorrow in every new dawn breaking over the eastern plains. Let your breathing slow as we explore the Buda Hills, a natural sanctuary at the city's western edge, where Budapest transitions from urban landscape to forested slopes. These gentle hills, reaching elevations of up to 1,700 feet, offer a striking contrast to the densely built areas below. The hills are crisscrossed with hiking trails, many dating back centuries, when villagers used them to move between settlements. On weekends, Budapest residents escape to these green spaces, walking among oak and beech forests, breathing air scented with pine and wildflowers. The Children's Railway, opened in 1948, runs for 7 miles through the hills, operated almost entirely by children aged 10 to 14, who serve as conductors, ticket collectors, and station masters under adult supervision. This unique railway was originally created to teach youth railway operations and responsibility, and it continues this tradition today, offering a charming journey through the forest canopy while providing young people with meaningful work experience. From various viewpoints in the Buda Hills, particularly from Elizabeth Lookout Tower, visitors can see the entire city spread below, the Danube cutting through it, and on exceptionally clear days, views extending 50 miles or more across the Hungarian plains. Now, let your thoughts drift to the unique phenomenon of Budapest's cave system, which extends far beyond the tourist caves beneath Castle Hill. The entire Buda site sits atop a honeycomb of limestone caves formed over millions of years by thermal waters dissolving the rock. More than 200 caves have been discovered beneath Budapest, creating an underground labyrinth that mirrors the city above. Some caves, like the Shimlohegi Cave and Palvalgyi Cave, are open to visitors and offer otherworldly landscapes of stalactites, stalagmites, and unusual formations created by the unique chemistry of thermal waters. The Palvalgyi cave system extends over 19 miles, making it the longest cave system in Hungary. During World War II, some caves served as bomb shelters and hospitals, protecting thousands of civilians from air raids. Today, certain caves are used for speleotherapy, using the cave environment to treat respiratory conditions, as the constant temperature, high humidity, and mineral-rich air can benefit those with asthma and other breathing difficulties. Breathe deeply now as we consider Budapest's relationship with its Roma population, one of the city's largest and oldest minority communities. The Roma, often called gypsies, though many consider this term pejorative, have lived in Hungary for over 500 years, and Budapest has long been home to a significant Roma community. Their contributions to Hungarian culture, particularly in music, are immeasurable. Roma musicians developed and preserved much of traditional Hungarian folk music, and they were integral to the café culture of the 19th and early 20th centuries. When Roma bands played in restaurants and cafes, their violins becoming synonymous with Hungarian musical identity. Today, the Roma community faces ongoing challenges, including discrimination, poverty, and social marginalization. Yet they continue to enrich Budapest's cultural landscape through music, art, and cuisine. The relationship between Roma and non-Roma Hungarians remains complex, reflecting broader European struggles with inclusion, identity, and historical injustice. Let yourself relax as we explore the seasonal rhythms of Budapest, for this is a city that transforms with each season. In spring, typically arriving in March or April, the city bursts into bloom. Cherry trees along the Danube embankment create clouds of pink blossoms. Parks fill with tulips and daffodils, and outdoor cafes reopen their terraces. Summer brings intense heat, with temperatures sometimes exceeding 95 degrees Fahrenheit, driving residents to the outdoor pools and to Margaret Island's shady groves. The long summer evenings create a festive atmosphere, with concerts, festivals, and outdoor events filling the calendar. Autumn, particularly September and October, is considered by many to be Budapest's finest season. The heat subsides, golden light bathes the city, and the trees transform into brilliant yellows, oranges, and reds. Winter can be harsh, with temperatures dropping below freezing and the Danube occasionally carrying ice floes. Yet this is when the thermal baths are most appreciated, when Christmas markets fill the squares with lights and mulled wine, and when Budapest takes on a quieter, more introspective character. Now breathe slowly and picture Memento Park, one of Budapest's most unusual museums, located on the outskirts of the city. This open-air museum, opened in 1993, displays 42 statues and monuments from Hungary's communist era, removed from public squares following the fall of communism in 1989. Rather than destroying these artifacts of totalitarian propaganda, the city decided to preserve them in a dedicated space where they could be studied and contemplated. Massive statues of Lenin, Marx, and Engels stand alongside heroic workers and soldiers, all arranged in a park setting that feels both surreal and sobering. The park's entrance features a replica of the grandstand from which communist leaders once reviewed parades. Memento Park serves as a powerful reminder of Hungary's recent past, allowing visitors to confront the visual language of authoritarianism while acknowledging the importance of remembering rather than erasing difficult history. The park's existence reflects Budapest's complex relationship with its 20th century past, neither glorifying nor entirely repudiating it, but instead preserving it as a subject for reflection and education. Breathe deeply as we contemplate Budapest's relationship with water beyond the Danube and thermal springs. Lake Balaton, Central Europe's largest lake, lies about 60 miles southwest of Budapest and has long served as the capital's summer playground. Hungarians call it the Hungarian Sea, and during summer months, many Budapest residents spend weekends at this vast freshwater lake, which stretches 48 miles long and averages only 10 feet deep, making it warm and ideal for swimming. The lake has its own microclimate and ecosystem, and its shores are dotted with resort towns, vineyards, and beaches. The train journey from Budapest to Balaton takes about 2 hours, and this connection has existed for over 150 years, allowing generations of Budapest residents to escape urban heat for lakeside relaxation. The relationship between capital and lake is so strong that Balaton features prominently in Hungarian culture, literature, and collective memory, representing leisure, summer, and the possibility of escape. As you rest in complete peace, imagine Budapest in all its dimensions, past and present intertwined. East meeting west, thermal waters and flowing river, ancient stones and contemporary life, a city of survivors and dreamers, of memory and hope, of countless stories written in its streets, its buildings, its bridges spanning not just the Danube, but also time itself, connecting what was to what is to what might yet be. Let your breathing deepen as we explore the unique tradition of Hungarian medicinal herbs and pharmacies that has thrived in Budapest for centuries. The city is home to several historic pharmacies, the most famous being the Golden Eagle Pharmacy Museum, originally established in 1688 and operating as a functioning pharmacy until 1971. Located in a Castle District building, this museum preserves centuries of pharmaceutical history with its original Baroque cabinets, ceramic drug jars, ancient medical instruments, and even an alchemist's laboratory. Hungary has a long tradition of herbal medicine, with knowledge passed down through generations about the healing properties of plants growing wild in Hungarian meadows and forests. Many Budapest residents still visit traditional herbalist shops to purchase dried chamomile for calming teas, elderflower for colds, or St. John's wort for various ailments, maintaining practices that predate modern medicine by centuries. This connection to plant-based healing reflects a broader Hungarian relationship with nature and traditional knowledge that coexists alongside contemporary medical practices. Now, let your thoughts drift to the Danube Bend, a spectacular section of the river about 25 miles north of Budapest, where the Danube dramatically changes course, turning nearly 90 degrees and creating some of Hungary's most picturesque scenery. This region, easily accessible from Budapest by train or boat, contains historic towns like Szentendre, Visegrad, and Esztergom, each with its own character and attractions. Szentendre, an artist's colony with Mediterranean-influenced architecture, draws visitors with its galleries, museums, and winding cobblestone streets. Visegrad holds the ruins of a magnificent medieval palace and a hilltop citadel offering panoramic views over the river bend. Esztergom, Hungary's ecclesiastical center, features the largest church in the country, the Esztergom Basilica, whose massive dome is visible for miles. For Budapest residents, the Danube Bend represents a cherished escape, a place where the river reveals different aspects of its character, flowing through forested hills rather than urban landscapes, creating scenery that has inspired Hungarian artists and writers for generations. Breathe slowly and picture the Matthias Corvinus Fountain, one of Budapest's most elaborate Baroque sculptural groups, located in the courtyard of Buda Castle. Created in 1904, this fountain depicts King Matthias Corvinus, Hungary's Renaissance king who ruled from 1458 to 1490, dressed as a hunter and surrounded by hunting dogs, with the beautiful Alanka gazing up at him. The fountain illustrates a romantic legend about the king hunting in disguise and encountering a peasant girl who falls in love with him without knowing his true identity. When she discovers he is the king and cannot marry her, she dies of a broken heart. This legend, immortalized in the 19th century ballad by poet Mihály Vörösmarty, became part of Hungarian romantic nationalism, and the fountain serves as both a work of art and a story frozen in bronze, reminding viewers of the human dramas that unfolded within the castle walls over the centuries. Let yourself relax as we explore Budapest's vibrant festival culture, which fills the calendar year with celebrations of music, food, film, and art. The Sziget Festival, held annually in August on Buda Island in the Danube, has grown into one of Europe's largest music and cultural festivals, attracting 500,000 visitors over a week-long event featuring hundreds of performers across multiple stages. The Budapest Wine Festival, held in September on Castle Hill, celebrates Hungarian viticulture with tastings from dozens of wineries. The Budapest International Documentary Festival in January showcases documentary films from around the world. Smaller neighborhood festivals occur throughout the year, celebrating everything from craft beer to street food to contemporary art. These festivals transform public spaces, islands, squares, streets, and parks into temporary communities where locals and visitors mingle, creating shared experiences that add vibrancy to urban life and ensuring that Budapest never feels static or museum-like despite its historic architecture. Now, breathe deeply and contemplate the role of Danube River cruises in Budapest's tourism and daily life. The river serves as both transportation corridor and viewing platform, with numerous cruise options ranging from one-hour sightseeing tours to dinner cruises, with live music to party boats popular with younger crowds. The most magical time for these cruises is evening, when Budapest's monuments are illuminated, the Parliament building glowing golden, the bridges lit with thousands of lights, Buda Castle crowned with spotlights, creating reflections that shimmer on the water surface. For many visitors, seeing Budapest from the Danube provides the definitive introduction to the city's layout and beauty. The perspective from the water reveals how the city was designed to be viewed from the river, with major monuments oriented toward the Danube, the facades meant to impress anyone approaching by boat, as travelers, traders, and dignitaries did for centuries before roads and railways dominated transportation. Let your mind drift to the Hungarian State Opera House's fascinating history and the story of its architect, Miklós YBL, who is considered one of Hungary's greatest architects. YBL designed numerous significant buildings in Budapest, but the Opera House, completed in 1884, stands as his masterpiece. The building's interior decoration involved over 50 painters and sculptors, creating a unified work of art that extends from the grand staircase to the auditorium to the ceiling frescoes. The main chandelier alone weighs 3,175 pounds and illuminates the auditorium with hundreds of lights. Emperor Franz Joseph attended the opening ceremony, but reportedly remarked that the Budapest Opera House was more beautiful than Vienna's, which apparently displeased the architect, as he had intended to show respect to Vienna while creating something distinctly Hungarian. The acoustics are considered nearly perfect, with every seat in the house offering excellent sound quality, a testament to 19th century architectural and engineering expertise that remains unsurpassed by modern technology. Breathe slowly as we explore the tradition of Hungarian folk dance, which has experienced a remarkable revival in recent decades. Traditional Hungarian dance forms, including the Csárdas, a couple's dance that alternates between slow and fast sections, and various circle dances and solo dances from different regions of historical Hungary, were preserved through centuries of foreign rule. In the 1970s, a folk dance movement emerged among Budapest youth, who sought to reconnect with traditional culture that had been suppressed or neglected. Dance houses, or tancas, sprang up across Budapest, where young people could learn traditional dances, often taught by elderly villagers who remembered the authentic steps and styles. This movement spread throughout Hungary and even internationally, helping preserve traditions that might otherwise have been lost. Today, tancas events occur regularly in Budapest, welcoming anyone who wants to learn, from beginners to accomplished dancers. The music accompanying these dances is equally authentic, played on traditional instruments like the violin, viola, double bass, and cymbalum, a large hammered dulcimer that produces the distinctive tinkling, percussive sound characteristic of Hungarian folk music. The story of Budapest's public statues and monuments creates an outdoor gallery chronicling the city's values, conflicts, and changing political narratives. Beyond the communist-era statues removed to Memento Park, the city contains hundreds of monuments to historical figures, events, and concepts. Some honor national heroes like Lajos Kossuth, leader of the 1848 revolution, whose massive monument stands near Parliament. Others commemorate writers, composers, and scientists. More recent additions include monuments to victims of various tragedies, the Holocaust memorials we discussed earlier, a monument to the 1956 revolution, and memorials to victims of communist repression. Each statue represents not just a person or event depicted, but also the values and historical interpretation of the era in which it was erected. Walking through Budapest and observing its statues is like reading a complex text about Hungarian self-understanding, national memory, and the ongoing negotiation between different visions of the past and their relevance to the present and future. As you drift into the deepest rest, Let Budapest fade into dream, a city of bridges and baths, of music and memory, of flowing water and enduring stone. A place where history lives not in museums alone, but in every street corner, every steaming bath, every cafe conversation, every note of music floating through the evening air. A city that has survived everything and continues, beautiful and resilient, beside its eternal river.